My 24 male, father 78, had fallen seriously ill a while back and had to be admitted to the hospital. The issue, though, is that my brother, 25, was against giving him any treatment. When my girlfriend and I told him that he wasn't well, he refused to admit him there. He said that my dad was old and that unnecessary medicines would just cause him more suffering and prolong it, and that he deserved to pass away peacefully at home. I told him that was ridiculous and that I would get him treated. He flipped out at that and said he should be the one deciding, as he's older, and that I have no idea what I'm talking about. I said I didn't care and that he couldn't stop me from getting my father medical treatment. He and his girlfriend protested, but I wouldn't budge. He asked me how I would pay the money as it would be really expensive. I told him I would use what I could, but that I would mortgage the house by asking my father to give me power of attorney if funds were low. He was conscious even though he was really unwell. Then my brother got really mad at that and said that I couldn't threaten to spend his inheritance or blackmail him and to mind my language. But I wouldn't back down and took Dad to the hospital. My brother didn't immediately accompany me, but arrived at the hospital later to check on him, etc. He was also having a long conversation with my dad in private with his girlfriend and seemed to care a lot now. But he's not talking to me because he said I don't know how to respect him and that I was being really discourteous, etc. Am I the idiot for threatening my brother to mortgage the father's house? Edit. I didn't want to ask my dad whether I should let him die because that would be a horrible thing to say. I wanted to treat him regardless of what he said, in case he thought he'd be a burden and would have asked us to let him go away when the time had come. Not the idiot. His inheritance? My God, your brother is a huge idiot, not only because he's not entitled to anything your dad has, but the fact that your dad's not even dead, and all he can think is how much money he's going to get is just despicable. I realize it might be an uncomfortable conversation, but you need to discuss this with your father and see what he would like to do regarding treatment. I disagree. OP, what an absolutely selfish and inconsiderate attitude. It's not a horrible thing to let people decide. I watched my father die last year, and I was at his bedside for his last week. It was awful for me, my mom, my family, his friends, and everyone, but we all knew he was dying and it hurt. But ultimately, we helped him pass on how he wanted to pass on. That's what it means to be a good son in that situation. Your wishes don't matter. Only his does. It's a fact that we all die. Your father has a choice and almost certainly has an opinion of how he wants to die. And you're being a selfish, inconsiderate jerk by not talking to him. You are the idiot. Also, your brother's an idiot too. His inheritance? Bah! It's your father's house, and like everything else he owns. So as long as he lives, it's his to do what he wants with it. It's not yours to mortgage. If he's competent enough to sign a power of attorney, he's also currently competent enough to make his own decisions. Everyone's the idiot, you and your brother. Neither of you seems to have made an effort to talk to him. It's his decision. Please work with the doctors and figure out what he wants and what's possible. I'm a single mom, female 42, of 4. Arden, young female teen. Bryony, a female tween. Robin, a male tween. And Kaya, a female pre-tween. All of us except Robin are deaf, with ASL as our first language. Arden and Bryony's dad, 46, left when the girls were toddlers, and I met Kaya's dad, Alex, 43, shortly after. He had just come into custody of his nephew, Robin. Robin's bio mom, Layla, 47, gave Robin up to focus on recovering from her long-term addiction. Robin is fully aware of who his bio mom is, but considers Alex his dad, and has called me his mom since the age of 2 to 3-ish. Layla has told me in the past how grateful she is for me filling that role, and that she feels more like Robin's aunt than his mom. All this to say, when Alex was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, it was pretty clear to us that I would continue to raise Robin as my son after Alex's death. Alex passed away in June, and ever since, His mom, my mother-in-law, has been causing problems. While she's never been outwardly hostile towards me and my children, she often complains about our use of ASL. Most of the family learned at least some basics to support communication, but mother-in-law insisted she was too old and couldn't do it, and has made comments in the past about my inability as a mother due to my deafness. My older girls are practically non-existent to her, and she often forgets that Kaya's her grandchild too, and focuses solely on Robin. Mother-in-law spent most of the funeral telling people that I was unfit and trying to steal Robin away from his real family. It was hurtful, to say the least, and made me uncomfortable welcoming mother-in-law into my home after that. But I convinced myself that it was for the benefit of the kids. They just lost their dad. I didn't want to take away a grandparent too. Last Saturday, Robin came back from an outing with mother-in-law, looking miserable. He wouldn't talk to anyone about what had happened and spent the rest of the weekend shut away in his room. I tried to ask mother-in-law what was happening, but she didn't answer my messages. Finally, Robin broke down in tears, asking me if Grandma was going to take him away. It turns out that mother-in-law has repeatedly told Robin that she'll take him away from us, even telling him that she'll call CPS on me to remove the kids. On Saturday, mother-in-law had gone even further, saying she could drive away with him and he'd never have to see us again. I immediately sent mother-in-law a message informing her that she was no longer welcome in my home or near any of the kids. I let Layla know what was going on and that she was still welcome to visit or have Robin stay if mother-in-law was nowhere nearby. My phone has been blowing up since, with people asking me to reconsider. I haven't said anything about what happened, so I can only assume mother-in-law is spreading false information. Still, all the negative responses are making me doubt if I'm actually in the right here. Not the idiot. You should not let this woman anywhere near the boy. This mother-in-law is a danger to Robin. You must protect him. You should probably contact your local police to discuss the issue. Perhaps engage an attorney if you can afford it. Please notify the school not to let her near your son, that she's threatening to abduct him. OP, you need to take this seriously. Contact the police, school, friends, everyone who has contact with Robin. Everyone must be aware of what's going on. She's scarring your child. She and Robin being alone would never be permitted again. If Robin wants to visit her, and if mother-in-law is paying, you might all possibly meet in the office of a family counselor. Honestly, I'd call CPS myself, especially after that drive-away stuff. That's not something you can mess around with. Granny has gone round the bend and could run off with your son at a moment's notice now. It has to be something you, as a responsible parent, prevent. If you have to do that by going no contact, do it. Your mother-in-law is most likely a narcissist, and the people agreeing with her are sometimes called flying monkeys. Block her and anyone who agrees with her. Being deaf is not a reason to remove your children. It's getting to be the rainy season where I work. It'll rain for the next 4 or 5 months, daily. I was packing up my stuff to take to work, and I was packing my boot dryer. My wife hoped I could leave it at home since they needed it too. I was interested, so I asked why she needed it. She said she does lunch supervision once a week and that our son shovels snow. I asked if this lunch supervision soaked her boots for 10 hours a day for weeks on end, and that the same question went for my son and his constant snow shoveling. She said no, and that I was making her feel stupid and useless by pointing out that I needed the boot dryer to be comfortable at my job. I feel bad I made her feel this way, but an adult should be able to understand that stuff without being told. You are the idiot. If your family would benefit from having one at home, but you need one at work, why don't you buy one for the house? Why isn't that the automatic response? I need this one for work, but let's price out a second one for home and put it in the budget. Why is the default talk to your partner like they're a moron? Because then OP would miss out on the opportunity to be condescending. You are the idiot for speaking to her like a dumb child. She asked you a simple question that required a simple answer, not, "Does this lunch supervision soak your boots too?" Huh? Do they? Well, do they? Buy your wife a boot dryer, dude. I was gonna say, even the way he wrote her lines was like, so polite and reasonable. He didn't even gussy it up to lie and make her seem more silly or unreasonable. If anything, it sounds like she was sort of like passively saying they could use one for both places. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, she said in a knowing voice. The dummy just didn't take the hint and was kind of a jerk about it and is now getting dunked on online. Update. It turns out I'm definitely the idiot. As I stated, it takes weeks for deliveries here. There was a package waiting for me when I arrived at camp. My wife had purchased a new, very good boot dryer for me and was trying to surprise me. She didn't want me to lug my old one up. I've already called her and apologized. I have 2 kids from my ex-wife, a son, teen, and a daughter, 20. They're entirely different when it comes to academics. Our daughter did well in school, was a straight A student, did sports, and wanted to be a lawyer. Our son struggles more with school, doesn't do sports, and doesn't know what he wants to do once he graduates. The 2 of them aren't close at all. It was my daughter's birthday yesterday, and we had a relatively large party for her. My side of the family, my ex's, and my daughter's friends. When it was time to cut the cake, my ex made a speech about our daughter's accomplishments and how she'd be successful in the future. At the end of the speech, she said, "Hopefully son's name gets his act together and gets better grades," which upset our son. Ex noticed that our son was upset, and she continued to push the issue, saying that she was worried and that he wouldn't have a future if he kept this up. By then, the party was already tense. Some of the family chimed in and took my ex aside. My son was arguing back and insulted his sister in the process. The party was ruined at this point, which upset my daughter. After the mess ended, my ex-wife came to me saying that we needed to get our son's jealousy issues under control because he shouldn't have ruined his sister's birthday party like that. I reminded her that the party wouldn't have been ruined if she didn't mention our son during her speech about my daughter. She claims I'm making things worse. Most of my side and her side of the family side with my ex, saying my ex didn't ruin it by being a concerned mother. I don't see what they're concerned about. Our son is on track to graduate. His grades are just average. But I have all these texts saying that my son needs to apologize or get therapy for the insults he said to his sister. Am I the idiot? Edit. After insulting his sister a lot, my ex asked if he cared about his sister at all, and he responded by saying that he didn't, and he didn't care if she lived or died. That's why they think he needs therapy. I talked to my daughter recently. She was upset about her party being ruined, and she felt embarrassed. She hasn't talked to her mother or anyone else in the family that sides with her mother because she doesn't agree with what her mother did. She didn't know her brother hated her that much. They rarely ever talked, but she didn't think of him in that same way. You're not the idiot, but boy, oh boy, your ex-wife is a massive idiot. I likely would have reacted the same way if I were the son. His mother called him out for no reason at a family gathering. How did she expect him to react? She didn't need to take a shot at your son publicly. Of course he'd get upset when she called him out in front of his extended family. You should talk to your son and tell him that you're there for him and support him. Oh, I bet she'll be shocked when your son goes no contact. Honestly, she's awful. If I were your son, I would no longer interact with her. Time to limit interaction between your ex and son. Also, get him therapy, because a mother like that leaves scars. Your ex sounds narcissistic and emotionally abusive. Moreover, she's greatly contributed to destroying further the links between your children. She's perhaps even the reason why they're not close, if this is her usual behavior around them. Hopefully one day when they're a little older and have some perspective, they'll understand that their mother is the reason they don't get on well. Sounds like she actively keeps them at odds to maintain control. When the children finally figure this out, they will resent their mother tremendously. I'm a first grade teacher, and my daughter's a preschool teacher. She's a second-year teacher. She was a teaching assistant for a year while she got the credits required to teach. Her school opened a second location with one classroom, and she currently runs the area from 12 to 6:30 every day. When she started working at the school, I noticed she was running to the Dollar Tree or Walmart to grab little things for her classroom, like hair ties, stickers, beads, and string. She said she didn't mind because it was all cheap and made her job more manageable. Then when she got her own classroom, she started looking on Nextdoor and Buy Nothing and shopping for her classroom more often. She has 24 outfits to store in her class, 3 in each size from 2 to 5 for boys and girls, in case the parents forget to send new clothes. She has a box of pull-ups in case a kid has an accident and doesn't have a spare pair of underwear. She has extra snacks. She has extra jackets and socks, a pack of combs and brushes, extra nap bedding, and bins of what she calls stalling activities, easy things she can pull out when she needs to stall. She even has Halloween costumes in case one of her students doesn't have one, and she gives away blankets and jackets if she thinks a student needs them. I told her that all of this is excessive and she should leave it up to the school's owner to get these things. She said the owner says these things aren't necessary, but they don't cost much and make her classroom run more smoothly. I told her that if the owner says it's unnecessary, don't get these things and let her see how the class runs without them. I told her I don't spend any money on my classroom and that if my principal isn't willing to buy it, the kids don't need it. She says it's different because I work at a $30,000 plus per year private school and she teaches in a lower income community, but I still told her that it's not her responsibility. I also told her that her buying stuff for her classroom makes all of us that don't look bad, but she doesn't care. She's upset with me for being pushy, but I'm just doing what's best for her. Am I the idiot for telling my daughter not to spend money on her classroom because it makes the rest of us look bad? You are the idiot. She says it's different because I work at a $30K plus per year private school and she teaches in a lower income community, but I still told her it's not her responsibility. Let her do nice things for these kids who don't have the luxury of attending a private school. You're being a bit paranoid that stocking her low-income classroom with goodies could make your private classroom look bad. Look bad to who exactly? Are your private school kids taking field trips to your daughter's school? Exactly. I thought they were working at the same school, but they're not. So how does what the daughter do make her look bad? The only judgment OP's feeling right now is her own self-judgment. She's realized that she's a worse, less caring person than her daughter, and it's easier for her to try to hide the evidence by convincing her daughter to be less charitable than her, for her to make herself the kind of person she wishes she was. Imagine being more worried about how someone else doing an act of kindness that has nothing to do with you makes you look than about whether kids have a jacket. Imagine being so self-absorbed that instead of being proud of your daughter for genuinely caring for the well-being of children, you're annoyed that people might think less of you when literally no one is making that comparison but you. Now imagine being the only person in these kids' lives who cares if they have an accident at school, only to have your mother tell you that you're trying to upstage her. OP needs to get over themselves, and maybe she shouldn't be teaching. Your daughter does not make you look bad, but your lack of care for these children having necessities sure does. Yes, lady, you are the idiot.